After installation, there'll be a new app available from the menu in the top right called Tax Receipts. So we could start by opening that up. And there are 3 tabs in here: Opportunities or Donations, Documents, and Tax Receipts. So the first 2, Opportunities or Donations, and Documents, are standard Salesforce tabs. And Tax Receipts, of course, is a new custom tab specific to this app. So we'll get started by uploading our logo and signature file into the Documents tab. When you go into Documents, there's this button, New, and you can choose a file from your PC to upload. I've actually already gone ahead and uploaded my signature and logo files. So I'll just open those up. There's a button towards the bottom of the document detail page called View File. So we'll want to press View File for both the signature and the logo. And once these are open, we'll want to copy the portion of the URL that comes after .com. So that portion starts off /servlet. And I'll just copy all that. So there's my logo URL. I've just copied it to my clipboard. And I'll go to the Tax Receipts tab. And if I press New to create a new tax receipt, that's when the tax receipt wizard starts. Before I can actually issue any tax receipts, though, I do need to configure the settings. So I'll press this Go to Settings button at the very top of step 1. And I'll edit my settings. And you can see there's a placeholder URL already populated for the logo, but I'll just replace that with the text I copied out of my logo URL. And I'll do the same thing for the signature. Copy everything that comes after .com. And paste it into the signature URL. While you're in here configuring the settings, you'll also need to enter your charity registration number. I've just left 123 in here as a placeholder. And you'll also want to populate an email body, including a signature line and an email subject line if you are emailing your receipts to your contacts. You'll want to leave the name as it is, current. Please do not change the name from current. The app will be looking for a setting named current. And you'll also need to update the next receipt number. So that would usually be an increment of 1 over the last receipt you issued. Now that I've got this set up, I'll hit save. And that concludes the mandatory setup components for the tax receipting app. Next, let's have a look at how to actually use the app to generate tax receipts. When you create a new donation or opportunity, the tax receipt app comes with a new record type by default called receivable donation. So you can choose that record type before creating a donation. I've, again, actually already gone ahead and I have a receivable donation record type. So I'll just open it up. And there are a handful of fields on the receivable donation record type that you need to issue a tax receipt. So the first one that you'll need to have populated is receivable amount, which is usually the same as the donation amount unless there was a personal benefit associated with it. Receipt 2 could be an account or a contact. And receipt Q could be now or end of year. You will also need to have a close date populated so we know what year the donation was made. And the stage should be closed won or posted, as long as the stage is equal to 100% probability and is of the type closed won, it will suffice. So again, if you have custom stages, posted, processed, that kind of thing, it'll work just fine. There's a few other fields here that are optional. Personal benefit amount, of course, if there was a personal benefit, you would enter it there. And in receipt rationale, if you have information about an appraisal for an in-kind donation or information about what the personal benefit amount was, you could enter it in here. If you leave the receipt rationale blank, if you leave receipt rationale blank, the app will sum up all of a donor's opportunities or donations that have no receipt rationale, and it can compress it into a single receipt. So that's especially useful if you have donors who make several donations throughout the course of the year, like monthly giving. By leaving receipt rationale blank, you can generate a single tax receipt rather than multiple tax receipts. If you leave receipt rationale blank, the receipt rationale on the tax receipt will say cash contribution with no personal benefit. So it is important if it's an in-kind donation or there is a personal benefit amount, it is important that you do populate this receipt rationale. And when you do populate the receipt rationale, it'll appear on the tax receipt, and that means that one donation can only have one tax receipt. It's 1-to-1. So probably most of your gifts will be cash contributions with no personal benefit. Again, just leave receipt rationale blank, and that donation will be summed into the tax receipt with other donations the donor may have made. So once you've got a bunch of donations entered and you're ready to issue tax receipts, again, we'll just go back to the tax receipt tab and press new. So step one is to create the records. I have a list view here called receipt pending. I can also get that list view out of the opportunities or donations tab. You will see a receipt pending list view. I would really strongly suggest you not delete or modify it, as that list view is what you see on this page here. So I've got a list of my pending receipts. In this case, there's just one donation that requires a receipt. And up here at the top, I can choose the calendar year and whether I'm doing immediate receipting or end of year receipting. So by default, it'll be this calendar year and immediate receipting. But if you got to year end and you had a bunch of end of year receipts to issue, you would switch the scheduled for from immediate to end of year receipting, and you would want to move the year back by 1. Now, in my case, I don't have any receipts. I don't have any donations from last year that are waiting for an end of year receipt, so I'll just leave it at the default. And if I press this button here, create receipts, create records, you can see that that donation I had in the list gets cleared out. And looking on the left-hand side here, you can see there is a new tax receipt, receipt number 1. And that's just a record. So the next step is to press the next button in the bottom right. And from here, we can create a PDF document for this receipt. If you have another mail merge software you prefer to use, there's nothing preventing you from actually just using your own mail merge in step 2 instead of this. But I'll just press this button to create PDF. And in the last stage, we can, if we want to email receipts, we can only email receipts if the receipt was issued to a contact, not an account, a contact, and that contact has an email address. If you are going to use that email functionality, it is really important that you do have a look through this list of pending receipts to make sure that there are no contacts who have multiple receipts in this queue. It will send one email for each receipt, so you do run the risk of sending duplicate emails to your donors if you don't vet this. As with the other list views, this pending email or letter list, if I just jump into the tax receipts tab, pending email or letter is again a list view right out of that tab, so I recommend you not edit or modify or delete this list view as it is used during the wizard. But you can see here I've got tax receipt number 1 issued to Murphy Inc. If I wanted to send this off manually, I could just open up the receipt. And under Notes and Attachments, you can see the PDF file. I'll open it up here. And at this point, I could download an email or print and mail this tax receipt off to the donor. Once you have sent the tax receipt to the donor, on the receipt record, just uncheck this needs sending field, and that'll just indicate that the receipt has been sent, and it removes it from the queue. So if I refresh my list view, pending email or letter, you can see that receipt is now sent off. Typically, the process would end there. Once you've sent out a batch of receipts, the process would be done. In the case where you need to cancel or reissue a receipt, you can just look up the record from either the tax receipt tab or the donor's detail page. And when you open up the tax receipt detail, you see this button here, Manage Receipt. I'll just press that. The Cancel Receipt button doesn't do very much. It just flags the receipt record to indicate that it's been canceled. It won't modify the PDF. For that, you would need to download the PDF and modify it yourself, or print it out, write on it, and scan it back in, but it will mark the record to flag that the receipt has been canceled. Replace Receipt will take the donations associated with that receipt and the donor associated with that receipt, and it'll just retabulate. So if you put in the wrong receivable amount on a donation, you could hit Replace Receipt and it would retabulate it and issue a new tax receipt with the correct amount on it. If a donor's address changes and you need to update their contact information, after updating the donor's contact information, pressing Replace Receipt will add that new contact information, that new address to the receipt. So I haven't changed anything for this account, Murphy Inc., but just to demonstrate, I'll press Replace Receipt, and it brings us back to step 2 of that wizard, where we create the PDF documents. So I'll hit Create PDFs. And then in step 3, I could email this. If it was to a contact with an email address, I could just hit this button right here to send it off. In this case, I'm going to open up the new tax receipt, number 2. And here is the new receipt. You can see in the comments section it says this replaces receipt number 1. Before concluding, I'll just point out to integrate the tax receipts with the rest of your Salesforce environment. I can make a few suggestions right here. First of all, the fields receivable amount, receipt to, and receipt queue. You can use workflow rules and field updates to automatically populate those fields, and that'll save you having to manually enter that. I would also suggest you add these fields to your existing opportunity or donation record types and page layouts so that you don't have to use this generic receivable donation record type. I would also recommend that you add the tax receipts tab. Add this tab to the app that you use, whether it's Nonprofit Starter Pack or a custom app. I would recommend adding that tab to it. Finally, the tax receipts object or the tax receipts table should have some security around it. It would be a good internal control if only the person issuing tax receipts, whoever that is, had permissions to create, update, and delete tax receipts. Other people in your organization might have read-only access to the tax receipts object, but I would suggest making sure that only a very limited number of people have the ability to modify the records. That's it for today. If you have any questions, please reach out to me through my website. I'd love to chat with you about how to integrate the tax receipts app with your CRM to automate your acknowledgements and tax receipt process. Thanks so much. Bye.